Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're here for another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. We do this per format. This video is actually going to be both a combination of Explorer Best of 1 and Best of 3 because there's some overlap. Haven't really done Best of 3 Explorer in a while. There's a big tournament on the weekend. So a lot of information here. I'll put the timestamps. But there is some overlap in the deck list where if it's a best of 1 deck that's also in best of 3, I'm just going to feature the best of 3 version so you have the access to the sideboard if you want. So consider this the cumulative, but all the deck lists will be posted in the video description. So you could easily import those from mobile now or from PC. So you can get all that information there. We get the data from Untapped.gg primarily, which you see on the screen. It's a companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client, tracks your win rates, loss rates, collection syncing, whole bunch of useful information. Free to use a whole bunch of it. Link is in the video description down below. So jumping into it, we are looking at the week September 20th to 27th. For the best of 1 meta, we are looking at 41,000 games played. Top performing deck of the week, Mono Red Aggro. So we're seeing Mono Red at the top tables. This is kind of a classic creature-based strategy, but we've seen some innovation in this particular list, kind of to combat some of the meta right now. So this version here, it's primarily going to be the Annex Cleave version. No Chain Whirlers, no Ferocidon, so you are weaker into the Angels matchup. Also no Fanatical Firebrand, so you can't really stack the damage. You basically have Stomps and Lightning Strikes. Lightning Strikes, very good into the Greasefang matchup, helps you try to beat that deck. Also pretty good into Spirits, as well as most of the threats in Rakdos. You're still going to have a hard time dealing with a Shieldred that resolves. Or like any of the 4 toughness creatures out of Angels. But ideally, you want to do Annex Cleave, deal huge chunks of damage, powered up with Torbrand mixed in there as well. This version is also playing light at the stage for some card advantage in the list. 22 lands might be a little light, but without having played this particular version, the light up the stage might smooth this out. Generally speaking, I played thousands of games probably at this point in Mono Red and Historic primarily, but it's pretty much a similar port to the Explorer versions and this Embercleave decks in Standard. I usually am between 23 and 24, depending on your composition of 3 and 4 drops also mixed in there. Your 2 drops, you have the Burning Trees, Kari Zevs, and Robber, Kumano, and Fervent Champion on your top end. This version here, the mana base is very budget. I would ideally go 3 Den of the Bugbear, 4 Ruins, and then 1 Castle, and then the rest basics. So those would be some revisions that I would do to this mana base. You really want the creature lands, and 3 is pretty heavy on the castles for this particular version. The next deck is Rakdos Sacrifice, Cat Oven, 59% win rate. And this is kind of your go-to Cat Oven, Claim the Firstborn deck. You got Deadly Disputes as well as Village Rites for card advantage. Some Fables to copy your like Blood Tithes or your Mayhem Devils. You also have Obnixis, which can be used in the sack package. So you have, this is probably one of the best decks to enable Fatal Push's Revolt. Pair that with Claim the Firstborn that you can sack their creatures for value. There's a lot of Collected Company style decks in the format, so it works pretty well. Unlucky Witness is another form of card advantage in the deck. Pretty much covers the Rakdos Sac list. Then we've seen, at least incidentally, I've observed a uptick in the number of Angels decks. I was playing some of the events, but Angels is pretty good into the Rakdos deck. They have a harder time killing the 4 toughness. They're usually using Fatal Push, but they don't always turn on Revolt. Stomp doesn't really hit it at times, and depending on their configuration, if they're going Heartless Act over Eliminate, it also depends. They moved off Chandra, so they usually don't have that, and you can usually outgain the life from the Shieldreds. But you're really just a life gain company deck. Your ideal draws are Luminarch into Bishop of the Wings, into Resplendent Angel, but you have like Giada that can pump a bunch of Angels, Righteous Valkyrie gains you a bunch of life, Collected Company, and then you have a Johnny as the Mirror Breaker as well in this particular deck. So then I'm going to cover Spirits, Rakdos, and Abzan Greasefang, which are all really good decks as well in Best of 1. We'll cover them there. I just wanted to show another deck. Didn't show up this week. Last week was in, but I've been playing a lot of Mono Black in Explorer. I'm 12-3. on the ladder. I was playing some events. I was trying out a couple things, so I have the updated list in the events. I got 6 wins on the last one. I went 0-3 because I was trying Evelyn instead of Invoke Despair. That was not a good. My losses were actually all 3 times to Angels, which was kind of annoying. This didn't capture everything on the last run, did it? No, it didn't. All my losses were to Angels. But I went up the Evolve Sleepers, but it's like Evolve Sleeper, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, eliminate Heartless Act, eliminate helps against the Rakdos matchup, because you can hit Liliana's, 1 Tenacious Underdog. I might consider a second underdog in lieu of the Evolve Sleeper, but Shieldred on the top end with a couple Invoke Despairs went down from 3 of them to 2, and then just played a little bit lower on the curve. It could go back up to the Invoke Despairs. With Angels being more popular, I might want another piece of removal, but you do have like the Murderous Riders and stuff like that mixed in. I've liked this deck. It's been a lot of fun. Like I said, Angels has been tough. I can tweak my deck to beat it, but you saw like I tried on License Hearse, Evelyn in the main board, took out the Invoke Despairs. Evelyn did not do what I wanted it to do, but in terms of actual ladder play, I've been pretty solid with this deck, 12-3. And I've liked it a lot more. I've tried out a few different versions of the deck. Tried like Blood Chief's Thirst, stuff like that mixed in. Tried Sorin. This is another deck if you want to check out. I'll paste this in. So going to best of 3, we had 17,000 matches. So consider this 2 to 3 games per match. So we're in that 40-ish thousand range game. We have Mono Blue Spirits, tempo deck that's using Spirits. And evasive threats. Ideally what you want to do with this deck is either throw Combat Research, a new card from Dominaria, or the Curious Obsession onto one of these evasive spirits and then smack into their face, draw a bunch of cards. You have protection spells in like Spell Pierce, Slip Out the Back, counter spells in Geist Snare, stuff like that. Rattle Chains is a protection spell, and you just kind of want to tempo out your opponent. Lord Effect, Tap Down Effect, Mana Sink, card draw in Spectral Sailor. Mausoleum Wander is kind of a counter spell in itself, and then your Snow package, so you have the Faceless Havens as well. The sideboard, sorry, I forgot this was best 3 for a sec. Removal, protection, and tempo, red decks or green decks. Then you also have Cerulean Drake against the heavy burn style decks. Even against Rakdos, it's not terrible because they have like Stomp and stuff like that. Negate for like the bigger mana control decks, Graveyard Hate, tempo, and then more counters for the control based matchups. And then we have a cool one here, 5-color Enigmatic. Not going to go through all the one-ofs, but basically the core of this deck is it's a Fire of Invention, Enigmatic Incarnation. Fires is not 5 mana in this format, it's only 4. This is the Alchemy for Historic. It's coming in wrong here, but what you're trying to do is play a bunch of enchantments and then turn those enchantments into like a toolbox of creatures. Notably, because you are multicolored deck, Leyline costs a reduced mana cost, but it's still 6 mana. So if you sack it to Incarnation, you can get Agent of Treachery or Titan of Industry. You have Yorion in this deck, both as a companion and in the deck, so you can blink stuff, and then it's just sweet. Like you turn your Omen of the Seas or Trial of Ambition into other things. You have Fable the Mirror Breaker, and then it's just a bunch of like one-ofs and situations. Graveyard Exiles, like exile creatures, rebuy stuff, Artifact Enchantment Hate, search up enchantments, bring back stuff, Skyclave to exile, Legion Angel gets you Legion Angels on the side, Siege Rhino coming in, you got Kenrith, Tolsmir, like a whole bunch of cool utility in this deck. And then you just have like Graveyard Hate, another Meat Hook for removal, Temporary Lockdown is dealing with the aggro decks, Dispute for counters, sack, and then for the control matchup you have the Shark Typhoons. It's a sweet deck. Apparently this deck, like I was watching a bit of gameplay, this does really good into the Rakdos deck if you're looking for a deck to beat up on Rakdos. Then we have Abzan Greasefang, 57%, the deck that you also see a lot in Best of 1. The core of this deck, what you're trying to do is put cards into your graveyard, ideally Parhelion, and then you reanimate it with Greasefang, give it haste, attack, deal 13 damage, be left with 2 4/4 Angels with Vigilance. You also have Sky Sovereign and Eska's Cherry you can reanimate. And then the core of the deck is getting cards into your graveyard. So you have Stitcher Supplier, you have Witherbloom Command, where Fiends can draw and discard, Salvage and Corpse Churn put cards into your graveyard, Liliana. So you're just kind of playing in that. It's like a reanimation style deck. In terms of your sideboard, protect your combo, kill things that might interfere with it, blow up artifacts or enchantments, or just general catch-all removal like hate pieces, Rest in Peace, Weathered Runestone, whatever it may be. Same idea with Tear Asunder, but can also be hit creatures, planeswalkers, any permanents if it's kicked. Exile your opponent's graveyards. Exile your opponent's graveyards, but good also into the control matchup. And then this is really good into the like Sky Sovereign's very good into Rakdos. Deals with a lot of their threats, and they usually have a hard time killing it. And then lastly, speaking of Rakdos, we have Rakdos Midrange. This is going to be an overwhelmingly popular deck with variations across the board. Sorry. The core of the deck is like 2-for-1s, heavy removal, kind of the Jund strategy in Modern, if you would. And really what you're trying to do here, kill a whole bunch of stuff, and then you have like Blood Ties, you have Fables to copy, Bone Crusher, Trespassers, Liliana, just really good individual threats on the top end that provide card advantage or life gain. Croxus to come back, you have Graveyard Hate, Eliminate Grasp. I'd play Heartless Act instead of Grasp. You're already taking a lot of damage in this deck. I wouldn't compound that with the Infernal Grasp. Then you have like Creature Lands, Castles, stuff like that. Hand Hate for like the controlling matchups. Graveyard Exile, Artifact or Creature Removal, same idea. Green or white cards. Card Advantage, Graveyard Hate. Against like blue-red decks, control decks, other Croxa decks works really well. I've liked a couple extra copies of Extinction Event in the creature decks. It's a good sweeper. Sometimes it'll hit your stuff, other times it won't, and then Sorin for more grind. And then if you're looking for more decks, Pizza Box, Hollywood Pizza, another content creator, had a big tournament over the weekend. Nearly 100 people, 87, played in it. The winning deck was a Rakdos deck, but we have some variation at the top. We got Rakdos, Mono Blue Spirits, some Mono Red, Mono Green, Azorius Control. I think this is Sacrifice. Izzet Combo, which is Fire of Invention, Agent of Treachery. I don't know if this is Indomitable Creativity. Yeah, so it's the Agent of Treachery deck. So a whole bunch of deck lists here if you want to check it out. I'll link it. His tournaments are free. He hosts 3 a month, different formats each time. If you want to check that out, definitely do follow Hollywood Pizza on various socials, but you can check in to when they have the next tournament. I'll usually announce it with the weekly meta as well if you're interested there. So in any case, going to wrap this up. If you have any cool decks in Explorer, let me know. If you have any really good standard best of 3 decks as well, I qualified for the October Mythic Invitational qualifier from the bonus play-in, and it's standard best of 3, and I'm gonna probably play Mono Black. Played a lot of it in Explorer, but if you have another deck that you'd suggest I look into, drop the deck list in the comments. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.